Greetings, welcome, and thank you for joining us this morning or this evening, depending on where you are, for our Application Tips webinar. So this is our International Application Tips webinar in preparation of our upcoming deadline on February 1st. It will be here before you know it. It's just a few weeks away. So we wanted to take some time to give you some tips on prepping your application before submitting. I am Jessica Voss. I am Associate Director of Graduate Admissions, been working with this team for about 2 years and excited to do another version of this with Ashley.
Hi, Ashley Lotzenizer, Associate Director of Graduate Program Admissions. Really excited to be here with you today. Really excited to share some tips for the upcoming deadline.
All right, before we get too far into this production, we want to make sure that you can hear us. Just so you know, you have been muted. While we do love to hear from you, we just want to make sure that we reduce that background noise. If you are having difficulty hearing us, please make sure that you use the raise your hand function or send us a message in the chat box so we can address that to the best that we can. And like I said, we do want to hear from you. This is about answering your questions and helping you to submit your application. So during the presentation, please write your questions in the Q&A function. We will address those questions at the end of the session. What are we going to cover today? We are going to talk about the parts of the application timeline, and then of course, like I just said, answer those burning questions that you have you need to answer before you submit. What are the parts of our application? So pretty generally, the parts of our application are the application form itself, some questions that you fill out, the test scores that you submit, whether those be your GMAT or GRE or your English language testing, your transcripts, your essays, your resume, and your interview. In some cases, there may be an application fee for some of our programs. The application form itself is all online. You go onto our website, you click that you want to apply, and you create a login, and you simply follow the instructions. Make sure that you do read those instructions as you are completing the form. It will ask you to indicate the program that you're interested in, to give us some contact information, which is very important. Make sure that you check that contact information and that it is accurate and that it is the contact information that you use on a regular basis, because that is how our recruiters as well as our admission staff will communicate with you. So make sure that information is correct. Also, something to pay attention to is, while we say the deadline is February 1st, start this application and walk through it well in advance of February 1st or the night before. We want to make sure that you don't experience any difficulties or technical problems that you need to have addressed before the deadline. Ashley, talk to us about test scores.
Yeah, let's dive right into talking about test scores. It is, for all of our programs, it is going to be required that you submit either a GMAT or a GRE exam test score. So in the application form, you're actually going to write in your exam scores, and then you're also going to need to upload a copy of the score report or have the score report officially sent to us from the testing service. We do not have a preference between the GMAT or the GRE. Certainly, we accept either exam. Certainly, I would say you should have a preference for one of these exams. You should certainly prefer the one that you're going to do better on. We really want you to pick the test that that demonstrates your ability best. Also, you will need to have completed the test before the deadline. So if you plan on applying for the February 1st deadline, you need to have completed the test before February 1st. Now, if you're registered to take the test for the first time, maybe in the first week of February, very soon to the deadline, please contact us and talk about the timeline for the application and see if that's going to be feasible. You will, as I said, need to upload the test score. You will need to actually tell us what the test score is in the application. It is a required part of the application. Now, if you're planning on retaking the test on the application, you can indicate a future retest date. Please note that, if you want to be considered in the February 1st deadline, we need to have all of your materials in by that date. So if you're planning on retaking the test, that could certainly delay the review of your application depending on your test date. So please be in touch with one of our recruitment staff to talk about the timeline for the application if you do plan on retaking the exam. Now, the other aspect of test scores is certainly English proficiency exams, either the TOEFL or the IELTS exam. to tell you if you are required to take the TOEFL or the IELTS, all international applicants. So if you are not a U.S. citizen, you're not a U.S. Permanent resident, you will be required to take the TOEFL if English is not your first language. And the test needs to have been taken after August 1st of 2016. So the test needs to be valid. Basically, you need to have taken it 2 years before the start of the program. If your test date is older than this, it is likely you'll need to retake the exam to be qualified. Now, you will qualify for a waiver if you have taken a minimum of 3 years of coursework at a college or university where the primary medium of instruction is English, and you have received your degree from this institution. You need to have met both of these requirements in order to receive a TOEFL or an IELTS waiver.
Awesome. Let's talk about that next piece, kind of those hard things that we need in the application, the transcripts. So we need to see your transcripts and your degree certificate. Please note that that's posted on here. So what we want to see from you is your transcript that reports all of the courses that you completed with credits and grades. That means that if you did transfer credits or you did an exchange study and those credits show up on your transcript as a T or a pass with no credit or grade, we want to see that transcript from that other institution as well. If your transcript does not indicate your title of your degree and the date that you were awarded that degree, that's when we also need to see that degree certificate. So for many countries, the transcripts do not report the title and date of the degree, which is why you will be requested to provide that degree certificate. Your application will remain incomplete until that is received. If you have not graduated yet, obviously, if you're applying to one of our master's programs and you are still in school, we will want your transcript with the most current information. So with the last semester grades as it is available now. If that transcript can show the courses that you're enrolled in, that's great. But if it does not, then we just need to see to that date that you are submitting your application. There's lots of information here. We do want to see, some of the things that we're looking at are not just the individual grades, but we are looking at trends. We are looking at your overall academic performance. So those are some things that we do want to see on your transcript. Make sure also if your transcript is not in the English language or your school does not issue them in the English language, we will need to see an official English language translation. One common question that we get here is, do we require an evaluation of your grades in your transcripts? At this time, we do not. So a WES evaluation or an evaluation from another agency does not replace your transcript. You do need to upload your transcript. The good news is you can upload unofficial documents at the time of application. Official documents will be requested of you at a later date should you be admitted and enroll in the program. A big thing here, keep calm and just write that essay. Don't worry about it. Make sure that you read the prompt. Don't try to make another prompt from another school work for our essay. We can certainly tell when our school name has been copied and pasted into a generic essay. Your essay should be personal, and you should make sure that you leave the time to write it and edit that. And make sure that you're also taking the time to write out that essay yourself. It's okay to have someone help proofread that and edit it, but make sure that you've really given us a genuine answer to the essay prompt. So what is that essay? We have one required essay that is going to ask you, at Olin, we aim to know every student by name and story. Please share your journey with us and why the pursuit of this degree is the right decision for you. So it is just that. Tell us a little bit about you. We look to get to know you. We look to get to know a little bit about where you've come from, where you're going, and how our school and this degree is really going to be a part of that journey for you. The next part of that is the career plan statement. So the career plan statement is a text box field that is in that hard application that I talked about earlier online. So this box will ask you to please describe your immediate career plans after graduation from Olin. Don't worry, we're not going to hold you to them, but we do want to know that you have a plan in mind of what you're going to do after graduation from Olin. Please note that this is a 300 character maximum, character, not word. So you do need to be short, concise, and to the point when describing your immediate career plans. Ashley, let's talk a little bit about that resume.
Resume. So I'm going to talk about the beautiful work of art that is your resume, much like this picture. But really your resume is going to be black and white. So the resume that you're going to submit as a part of the application is going to be a professional resume. So it should be like you're applying for a professional role, like you're applying for a job. In the US, 1 page is standard. I would say typically, unless you have over 10 years of professional work experience, your resume should certainly only be 1 page, 8.5 by 11, 1 page. Your resume should absolutely include any professional experiences you've had, including, if you're currently in school, any professional internships, any full-time work experience. It should include your education background, so certainly your college degree. And then also it should be action-oriented. There should be action words. There should be concrete results. You should really be able to sell your experiences. Typically, we see the resume include work experience from really undergraduate through present day. So certainly if you're currently working, absolutely don't forget to include your current work, including dates, specific days or specific periods of time. Make sure also if there are any changes in job responsibility, you're clearly articulating what different jobs were, that you're actually having descriptions for each of the jobs that you've held rather than general descriptions that apply to every job that you've held. Now, certainly your resume should also be accurate. So the other aspect is I'm going to give you some tips straight from our Career Center. So your resume should absolutely be first concise, accurate, and professional, as I mentioned. Proof for grammar, spelling, and conformance. It should certainly be customized to the position that you're seeking. So in this case, it would be graduate school, and action and results oriented. Again, thinking about that you're really looking at your work experience to see what impact you've had on an organization. And finally, error-free. So this would also mean free of any exaggerations, free of any lies, error-free, certainly accurate. Now, if you want some more tips on resumes, I would absolutely direct you to actually our Career Center. We have a career guide that we put out that's available publicly. It's for our students, but in there's actually some really good resume tips. So if you don't know what a good resume format looks like, I would highly recommend that you look at the career guide. And in fact, this is the standard in which we're going to hold resumes to. So if you want your really competitive resume, go in and look at the career guide. I believe resumes start at, I think it's page 17, 15 or 17, around there. They have some examples of kind of before resumes, and then they've edited those resumes to look like what we want here at Olin. And so if you're able to take a look at this career guide, this is going to give you some insider information into what the best resume looks like. So please take a look at that, understand what the format looks like. You'll notice that they're all 1 page. You'll notice that they are, they're not busy, but they also use the space on the page. So make sure you're not having wide margins and to have a bunch of white space. Please take a look at that career guide available on our website, on the Olin career website, olincareers.wustl.edu.
Great. Let's talk a little bit about the interview and the process for interviews. So an interview may be a component of your application process. Interviews are sent by invitation only. So if you are invited to interview, it is required. If you are requested, it is required. Those interviews might come in very different formats. So that interview may be a video interview that you complete where you were prompted to ask recorded questions. It may be a Skype interview. You could certainly also have an in-person or on-campus interview. Those interviewers could be anyone from one of our recruitment staff. It could be a member of our Weston Career Center. It could be a student here at Olin conducting an interview. So your interview can be with many different people. Regardless of the format of your interview or who your interview is with, like I said, they are required if requested. So when you're thinking about the interview itself, regardless of the format, regardless of if it's a video or if it's a Skype interview, there are some things that we want you to pay attention to. The interview is really your opportunity to show us who you are. You told us who you are in your essay, but now you get to show us who you are. And it's really your chance to kind of stick out above the crowd and really give us what we want to hear from you in terms of why you want to be here, why Olin is a good fit for you, and how you've helped find this program and how it's going to help you in your career progression. So keep your answers concise and on topic. Think of stories and experiences beforehand that might come from common interview questions. And those answers could really highlight your strengths in teamwork or things like that. This is a chance for us to get to know you. It really helps us make the application personal and see your personality. So while it's good to prepare and practice, try not to be too scripted. Don't try to memorize answers, because I promise that not every question is going to be the same, and that will come across. So if you can, prep yourself, but don't memorize answers or don't have a scripted response, because we do really want to see your personality in the interview process. Am I going still? I'm still continuing. Sorry about that. So when is this deadline? We've prepped you. We've gotten you ready for this application. That deadline is February 1st, 2018. So it's just shy of a month away. You certainly have time to get that application ready. Reach out to us with all of your questions, but that deadline is February 1st. And like Ashley mentioned, that application needs to be complete when you submit. We are on a tight timeline in terms of making sure that we can get decisions released to you and give plenty of time for the admissions and enrollment process. So that is why that deadline is a set deadline of February 1st.
Hey, Jessica, what time is the deadline?
11:59 p.m. Yes, it is okay. You have all day. It is not due that morning. It is due at the end of the day on February 1st, the very last minute before midnight. And I know we commonly get a lot of those questions of, I submitted my application 6 minutes after the deadline. Is it still going to be counted? Most likely, yes, but don't put yourself in that situation. Prep your application. You have a month to get it ready. You have plenty of time. Don't put yourself in that situation where you're waiting until the very last minute. Application timeline. So again, you submit your application by February 1st. You can view the status of your application online. So once you have submitted your application and it has been processed by our admissions team, it will show up as submitted. That will hold in submitted status until it is reviewed by the admissions team for completeness. If the application is complete and you listen to all of our instructions, then your application will move to complete and in review. That means it's being reviewed by the application admissions team. If something is missing from your application and you did not listen to all the instructions, it will show up as incomplete. If your application status shows as incomplete, a recruiter will reach out to you and tell you what is missing from your application. So certainly you will be contacted once that application is moved to incomplete to let you know what is missing and what we need in order to render that final decision. When will those decisions be released? Decisions will be released on March 23rd. Please note, decisions are entered throughout the day. So it is not something that they are entered first thing in the morning, but decisions are posted throughout the day on March 23rd. Going back to that interview process as well, depending on the type of interview, invitations are sent at a rolling basis. If you are getting a video interview, that might be sent throughout the application process for you. If you were being invited to a Skype or an in-person interview, then those interview invitations are sent on a rolling basis throughout that round after your application is submitted.
Tips. So these are a couple of good tips to keep in mind. The first is certainly to utilize the same email address in all of your communications. We understand that you might have multiple email addresses. please utilize both the same email and any communication that you have with our office, as well as when you actually start the application and are listing your email on the application. It's very frustrating for us to try to piece together who might be the same person. Certainly also if you potentially, if you've applied in the past and you're looking to reapply, make sure you are again utilizing the same email address. If you have a special email that you're looking to use just for applications, that's fine, but make sure you're checking that email, because we're going to communicate with one email address. We cannot communicate with multiple email addresses, so make sure you use the same email. Also, anytime you're communicating with our office, make sure you include your application ID number. It's a 7-digit number. Make sure you include that number and the program to which you are applying. This will help us get your application question to the right person. So again, use the same email address to email us, include your application ID, and tell us which program you're applying to. It's also a good idea if you can include your full name. So if you've been using a nickname, make sure you use your full name as it appears on your application. Again, that will allow us to basically triage your question as quickly as we can. Also, for the fastest email response, feel free to email your recruiter. So if you've been emailing with someone in our office who's your point of contact, who's mentioned that he or she, that they are your recruiter, please feel free to email them, or email olingradadmissions@wustl.edu. This is the fastest way to have your question answered. Often it's faster than calling our office, though certainly you're welcome to call our office. But with the time change for a lot of our students, I would say the quickest and most effective way is to send us an email at olingradadmissions@wustl.edu. That email is monitored every day by our staff, and so we'll be able to get to your question as quickly as possible. Upcoming events. In case you're interested in learning more about the Center for Experiential Learning, we're having a webinar at the end of this month at noon Central Time on January 24th. This is open to any students interested, any prospective students from any of our programs wanting to learn more about the CEL and the programs that we offer. Also, if you're in the US and interested in coming to campus, we have a preview day on Saturday, January 27th. Certainly that's a great chance to come and learn more about the program as well. Now, we want to thank you for spending some time with us today, and we have left some time for questions. So if you have questions about the application process, please type them in the Q&A box or in the chat function, and we will be happy to get to those. So that's the easiest way to go ahead and type in those questions. And actually, as I was going through, I thought of a question, which I'm now going to try to remember what I was thinking of. We didn't mention it, but I think we'll mention it again about unofficial documents. So Jessica mentioned this, and I'll say it broadly, that for the application process, you can submit unofficial documents. So if you have an unofficial copy of your resume that you want to scan in, or an unofficial test score, you're welcome to send those in. But we may we might want to see an official copy at some point in the application process. And then if a candidate enrolls in the program, it is required that you submit official copies. So just keep that in mind, but it does make the application process a little easier.
Perfect. Let's see. So is your essay question for applicants both past experience and future plan, or do I just share my past academic life and company experience? I think it's a mix of both. I think we want to hear a little bit about where you're coming from and how you've grown in those experiences, and what you plan to do in the future, and then how this program and Olin is going to be a part of that. So I think it's a combination of both of those things.
There's a question from a potential reapplicant, and I will mention that the reapplication process is slightly different than applying for the first time. So if you are a reapplicant, there's different requirements that you're going to be meeting, so make sure that you're filling out the reapplication process. So that is different. So the prompts for your essays will be different if you're a reapplicant to the program.
Yes, and following up to that, the essay prompt is slightly different. You should follow the prompt on the reapplication essay. So always follow the instructions on the application that is given to you.
Someone asked a question about pre-requirements. Jess, do you want to speak just briefly about some pre-requirements for some of our programs?
Yeah, so some of our master's programs do have some prerequisite courses. And our finance program, as this question alludes to, does require a course in microeconomics. If your course is not titled the course that is the prerequisite course, it is beneficial to upload a copy of that course description so that we can review that. So if you have a course that is related or might include that topic, make sure that you upload a course description. That can certainly be helpful, or have those conversations with your recruiter. That's what they're here for, is to help you through those questions and provide that information. So make sure you are communicating with our office about that. If you are planning to take any prerequisite courses in the semester, say the spring semester, and your transcript does not indicate that you are enrolled in those courses, it is beneficial to address that in an optional essay. So if you are enrolled for the spring semester and your school does not provide a transcript showing the courses that you are enrolled in, it is beneficial to include some sort of documentation or explanation indicating when you are taking that course and what the title of that course is.
So while not specifically an application question, someone had a question about the new business analytics program. So I will mention that within the business analytics program, there are actually 4 tracks that we now offer. So for those students interested in business analytics, you will actually have the opportunity to indicate which track within business analytics is your first choice. So for business analytics, students will take some common core classes across all 4 tracks, and then have the opportunity to take electives in their specific track. So it is a track related to a specific area within business analytics. So there are 4 distinct areas across business analytics. And you do apply to your specific area within business analytics. So you're not going to apply to business analytics, but you're going to actually apply to the specific track. So maybe that's customer analytics or that's fintech analytics. You do have to apply to the specific track.
One note about the Kira video and interview. Someone was asking about taking notes, and certainly it's okay, as in any interview, whether the format be on Skype, it is okay to jot down a couple of notes if you feel, but I would really urge you to prepare examples ahead of time that you might be able to use in that, versus kind of looking at your notes and referring to those in the video. You know, it is okay to take those notes and do that, but I think it's better if you can just really think about the question and really respond with a thoughtful response.
Someone had a question about what notification they might receive before the notification date. And it is actually possible that you will receive really no notification about an update until the notification date. So when you submit on February 1st, you'll get confirmation from our office ideally that your application is either complete or incomplete. So you'll be able to check the status of the completeness of your application before March 23rd, but it is possible that you will not receive any other communication until March 23rd. So again, if your application is marked as complete in review, then we will let you know if there are any next steps. Otherwise, you might not hear anything from our office until March 23rd. I just had a question. I thought of a question, Jessica. I know on the application, candidates can select their first choice program, but then they can also select a second choice program. Does that mean they're going to be considered for more than one program?
So the admissions committee will review you for the applications that you have submitted. You will be reviewed for your primary choice first. If you are felt to be a better fit for a secondary or tertiary choice program, someone will reach out to you and have that conversation with you. You are reviewed by the admissions committee for each of those programs that you submit on the application form. So if you receive a decision from us, that is a decision for all of those programs. If you receive, if we do feel you are a strong fit for a secondary program, we will contact you and have a conversation about that. Prerequisites for the analytics program: Calculus 1, Calculus 2, and statistics. Very, very easy questions. Let's see.
Someone had a question about average GMAT scores. So for each of our programs, you can look at the class profile online that will give you the average GMAT score. Now the GMAT or the GRE is just one component of the application. So understanding that the average GMAT score is just one part of the application. So it is a holistic application approach. So what that means is we look at all parts of the application. Now certainly it is a component of the application. It's an important component of the application, but it's not the only component of the application. But it's also important to understand that that's an aspect of the application that is in some ways changeable. If you think about aspects of the program that you can't change, that might be if you've already graduated from school, you can't go back and change your grades. If you're working right now, you can't go back and change your past work experience, but theoretically you can change your GMAT or your GRE score. So understand that there are parts of the application that you can change and certainly parts you can't.
Another question about that analytics. I know this is really about the application, but yes, that information is on the way, and there will be more information available on those different tracks very soon, including that curriculum. We can talk very briefly that the programs will share a core curriculum, and then there will be electives depending on the track. So that might help you in understanding that a little bit, but please be patient, and that information will be available very soon.
Someone had a question. It sounds like they're currently in graduate school, and then we'll be pursuing the MBA program. Now, we have students here at WashU that are doing joint degree programs. We have students that are graduate students elsewhere that are taking time to do the MBA program. We also have students who already have graduate degrees before pursuing our graduate programs. Certainly make sure that that's clear in the application, what your current status is as a student, talking about what your goals are, making us clear about the timeline. Certainly that would be very helpful for us. So make sure you clarify that. And if you feel that it's something you want to explain further, please use the optional essay. We didn't talk about this too much today, but there is a part of the application called the optional essay, and it's exactly that. It is optional. It is not something you have to fill out. But if you feel that there are some unanswered questions in the application, if you feel that there's something you'd like to explain, maybe it's a gap in work experience, maybe it's some lower grades during your undergraduate time, maybe it is that you're in a graduate program right now and you're taking some time off to do another graduate degree, please use that optional essay to explain that. If you don't feel that you have anything to add, don't use the optional essay. It's completely optional and is really only used for those circumstances that I just explained.
Let's see. Anything else? Somebody asked a question about online courses being recognized to fill the prerequisites. We will recognize online coursework that is done from an accredited college or university. It must be accredited. You must receive a transcript, and that must report the title of the course, the credit received. They have to be for credit, and the grade received. So we will not accept things like a Coursera course or something like that to meet a prerequisite. Let's see.
Great.
If you have any other questions, I think we pretty much wrapped most of the questions and hit all of these topics. If you have any other questions, we've mentioned it many times and it is up on the screen right now. Do not hesitate to reach out to us at olingradadmissions@woostel.edu. We are here to answer your questions and always happy to hear from you and speak with you about how this graduate program might help you in your future career goals. So please do not hesitate to reach out to us with any additional questions. We will send this webinar recording out as well. So if you feel like you missed something, you will be able to go back and listen to it then. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to receiving all of your applications on February 1st.
Thank you.